Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Flycast Partners webinar. My name is Rich Longo, and I'll be your host for today's presentation. I want to thank you for joining us for Purchasing Enterprise Software, presented by Flycast's very own Bobby McCullough. Now, Bobby has had well over 2 decades of selling, implementing, and supporting a variety of solutions, including IT service, operations, and financial management, including budgeting, forecasting, allocating, rebill, and accounts receivable, utilization management, which includes telecom, IT, and cloud, IT asset management from procurement to disposal lifecycle, infrastructure management, copper, fiber, network devices, change management, integrated workflow, time management, and rebill, incident management, expense management for telecom, IT, utilities, cloud, etc., integration, voice, VoIP, and UC, as well as HR, CRM, AR, AP, AD, and data warehouse and IT operations analytics. So he's been all over the place. He has configured demonstration systems using JSON file ingestion through application API and Python. Bobby has added value in multiple product engagements, providing overall solution views and clarity. His extensive experience in lean methodologies and proven record of designing and implementing more efficient and cost-effective procedures and technologies is invaluable. Before we get started today, Bobby, let me introduce our organization. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience. We were founded and staffed by personnel that have many, many years of experience in the IT space. And we took the best ideas from these collective experiences and added the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training and IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, enterprise service management, and workload automation spaces, all using ITIL best practice. Our professional services team, they can easily scale up or down to meet the needs of any customer, any IT customer, regardless of your size, regardless of your complexity or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on site and remote, as well as training to reinforce your company's long term IT success. Now, our ongoing remote administration support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on those day to day normal operations, saving you precious time and money. I encourage you to please feel free to reach out to us at 844 Flycast. That's 844 359 2278, or visit our website at www.flycastpartners.com and chat with one of our IT experts. They are there to answer your questions, folks. They're there to provide you with the material you seek during normal business hours, Monday through Friday. This, of course, is just one of many, many weekly webinars we conduct here at Flycast Partners. I encourage you to go take a look at our future upcoming webinars that are coming out. Maybe take a look at some podcasts, download a white paper or two, or maybe even a data sheet, and reach out to us via chat or email us at info@flycastpartners.com. During today's presentation, we will be taking any questions that you might have. Please type those in the Q&A section provided in this GoToWebinar, and Bobby will be more than happy to answer any questions you have as far as time allows. So with that being said, Bobby, I have just yielded control to you, sir. Looks great. Screen looks fantastic.
Great. Thank you, Rich. Thank you for that introduction. I'd like to meet that guy.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk today about purchasing enterprise software, and I want to make this fun. So there's going to be some jokes in here. You're welcome to laugh during those. I'm not going to hear it, but I'm sure you're going to be laughing when they come out. So why am I talking about purchasing enterprise software? So I've been in the industry over 20 years now, and I've been on both the buying and the selling side of purchasing enterprise software during that time. I've been a part of at least 8 purchases of enterprise grade software. So I've been through the process on both sides. So I think I can provide a unique experience, a unique explanation of what's happening there. Now, many of you, well, why are we talking about purchasing enterprise software? So many of you may be involved in the process of purchasing enterprise software, and so it's just helpful to know a little bit about what's going on uh, uh, why you're involved, and what you're probably going to be doing as a part of that process. If you've done this before, then this is going to be probably boring to you. Just hang around for the jokes. And I've got some pictures of the kids too, so you might want to hang around for that. But really, this is to kind of give you an overview of what that process is going to look like, and things you might need to think about as you're going through that process. Be sure to jump in with questions. I'll do the best I can to answer them all, and especially in the time that we've got. So we're not just going to talk about purchasing enterprise software. We're also going to talk a little bit here at the first about fishing, about catching fish. So I'm not sure what kind of child you guys might have been, but I was the kind of kid that when I decided that I wanted to go fishing, I didn't wait for dad or an uncle or a grandpa to take me. I got a stick and I put some string on it, and I went to the creek to figure out to fish. And and so for many of us, that's one of the first ways that you'll start with fishing. You're just gonna go do it. Bait a hook, toss it in the water. Don't really care about anything else. Hey, I'm fishing. But as you get older, and if you keep fishing, you're actually going to learn that there's a process involved in fishing. It's not just a matter of putting something on a hook and dropping it in the water. It really involves a complete system of location, timing, and tools. And when you deploy that complete system, then your chances are much, much greater that you're going to catch a fish. And you can actually use that system to catch specific fish, so that if you're looking for bass, you can fish in such a way that bass are what you catch, and you don't catch catfish or something else while you're out there. So those systems are very important, and that's also true of purchasing enterprise software. So what is enterprise grade software, and why is it different? Well, there's some familiar names you're going to recognize, things like Salesforce, NetSuite, SAP, Oracle, PeopleSoft, all of those kind of names you're going to recognize. I've been a part of purchases for each of those type of systems. Now, Wikipedia defines it as computer software that is used to satisfy the needs of an organization rather than individuals. So what does that mean? That means that scope is the difference. Enterprise-grade software tools are utilized by more areas and are more visible, either higher and or broader within your org chart than other tools that your organization might use. And so scope is what really requires a system to properly acquire this type of software, this grade or class of software. And since the tool's scope can be so large, the decision is likely not to be an individual decision. It's going to be a group decision, and more to the point, there are going to be several groups likely to be involved in the decision to purchase enterprise-grade software. Groups have their own internal politics, I'm sure you well know, but also your interactions with other groups. There's going to be politics with that as well, and so understanding the politics within your group, the politics with interactions with other groups, as well as the politics in those groups, so that you understand what's happening when you're interacting with those groups. So this leads us to talking about timing. So determining a time frame and the timing for your selection is going to vary. It's going to vary by the complexity of both the decision, who on your organization is involved in that decision, as well as the complexity of the solution being purchased. Is this something that's going to touch every department, or is it going to touch most departments? How are we going to be using this? It's really easy to get into what's called analysis paralysis, and thinking that every I's got to be dotted and every T's got to be crossed. So if you go into it knowing there are going to be trade-offs between effort and output, your expectations are going to be more likely to be met by the process. Maybe during the process it's determined that the time frame that you've set is not going to be adequate for your information gathering. If that happens, your process needs to take a time out and a reset occurs so that you can set expectations and they can become more realistic. When you're defining requirements, there's going to be several sources that can be used as a starting point. And many organizations use trade or industry vertical organizations to find members of those groups to help understand requirements and needs and what everybody else might be doing within your vertical. So once one of the first resources that you're going to probably reach out to is going to be what we call industry experts. So these are the Forresters and the Gartners of the world. Now, their information and comparisons are invaluable. It's very important to use that type of information to help understand, what you might be getting into with any particular vendor. But I do want you to keep something in mind. Those businesses are around primarily to make money. They're not a free service that is offering free advice. They expect to make money, and that has to be a part of your equation when you analyze the output from those industry experts. And speaking of timing, if you want to get your first kilt, I advise you to buy it before your daughter becomes a teenager. That's just not a good thing. They're not happy with that. So get to know your vendors and your options. So industry experts, they're gonna let you know what vendors are out there within any solution that you might be trying to investigate. So you're going to want to get to know the vendors. You're going to want to develop a relationship with the vendors for those different products. You're going to need to share information with those vendors. Share information about your problems. Be as transparent as possible. The more it's sort of like a visit to the doctor. The more transparent you are about what's going on, the more that vendor or account manager is going to be able to help you. So get to know your account manager, the person you're in direct contact with, but find out about the service, the support that the organization delivers. Ask to speak to someone in support so you can find out how they conduct their support for their particular customers. So the more you know about the vendor, the more you know about the products, that's when you really begin to understand who you want to deal with and who has the options that might more closely align with what you're trying to discover. So get to know them. You don't necessarily have to hug them, though, like Charlie and Milo here in this picture. So once you know what's out there, once you know what vendors are available, what options are available, then you're going to want to define your requirements. And so this is where we begin to get into that, getting the needed results from a multi-group decision-making process. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to hit your mark, hit your target? So many organizations adopt what I call a moderately democratic approach so that you can ensure proper decision from available options. And so this is where you first step is to each group develops their own requirements. Now, from that development and compiling of those requirements, you're going to find potential items that are competing between groups. And if you're looking at enterprise grade software, off the shelf type software, there may be more of this than you realize. Each group's creating their own list in a vacuum, and then when you compile that and bring that together, you're going to have to resolve those competing requirements. They're coming from both staff and management, so you're going to need to pick an arbiter to help come in and decide which way is most important to your organization around those competing requirements. It might be helpful to identify an overall project or solution consultant that can help provide advice as you're defining these requirements, so that you're asking for things that are doable, and you're not trying to to get out of the realm of what's really possible or what's reasonable within your organization. Their primary task is going to be to understand overall requirements and help identify when there's a competing request within the group. Now, your tasks for identifying and defining these requirements should have a time limit, but all stakeholders need to be involved in it so that everybody has representation in what's going on. When you're defining those requirements, one of the very first questions you're going to have to ask is, are we going to be on-premise or are we going to go SaaS or cloud? That's very, very popular today. The ability to just pay a monthly fee. So what's the difference between on-premise and SaaS? Well, here in this slide, it's basically the difference between having your hand on the tiller or just flopping down in the floor wherever you might feel like. On-premise, you've got control of your environment. It's yours. You have complete control within, obviously, your vendor contracts with the operating systems and things that you might be running on that on-premise equipment. SaaS, you don't have control of it. Someone else has control over it. So the trade-off there is what you're able to do in those systems, but also what you're required to do in those systems. If you have it on-premise, then you're required to maintain it. If it's SaaS, then someone else takes care of that for you. You have really no maintenance on an infrastructure level when you're looking at a SaaS solution. Another difference is financial. So typically an on-premise solution is going to involve a capital purchase and require money out of a capital budget. Oftentimes that requires additional approvals and may even get over into the RFX process, like we're going to talk about here in a bit. With SaaS, that usually comes out of operating budgets. It's like a monthly fee, and so that's something that a lot of times is easier to get approvals within your organization than on-premise. It's going to be easier for you to turn it up. It's the kind of thing that if you buy it today, we can likely turn it on tomorrow. On-premise, you're going to have control of it, but you're going to have to wait for the equipment to come in, and then you're going to have someone deploy that equipment and get it turned up and ready for you to go. There are obviously SaaS. You look at a yearly cost. Initially, SaaS may look like it's more expensive than on-prem, but on-prem you've got the maintenance cost, the staff to turn it up, and the cost of waiting. Oftentimes, you can have better support from a SaaS environment than you might from an on-prem environment, and so you've got to decide what's going to be best for your organization, both from a control as well as from a cost perspective when you're looking at on-premise versus SaaS. So we've defined requirements. We've talked to our vendors. We've defined, are working on defining our requirements, and a big part of that is on-premise or SaaS. The next thing you're going to want are going to be references. And so specific references that match your industry and your requirements are invaluable. Having someone that you can maybe visit on site is definitely going to be worth the drive and a meal or two. Sometimes, though, because of the nature of these solutions and the nature of your particular industry or vertical, maybe there's not someone in driving distance that really compares. So you're going to need to be flexible there so that maybe it's not someone that you can visit in person. Maybe it's someone you have to meet virtually. But always ask for references. The best vendors are going to eagerly provide those. In fact, the best vendors are going to eagerly work to make you a reference, so that you're that satisfied with the solution, so that you're be willing to tell others about that solution. References are worth more than just helping you decide which way you should go. Those references are also valuable resources after the sale. How did you implement? How did you handle this problem when you were implementing? Once you were implemented and this occurred. How did you handle that? Very, very helpful to have those type of relationships with other users. That's really another facet of enterprise grade software. Oftentimes they have user groups and like an annual user convention or user group meeting. And so those are very, very helpful to make those relationships with references so that you can get questions answered and provide your knowledge as well. You're going to learn and understand things that others may not have had experience with. And so providing your input in that environment helps as well. So I mentioned the RFX process. So your organization's purchasing process very well may have some type of RFX process. And what that RFX means, it's a request for information. Now that's sort of at the beginning of the process. We're trying to understand what our requirements might be. And so we're trying to, in a formal way, find out what's out there in the marketplace. Those aren't very common. That's normally someone that's what we in sales would call a greenfield. And so they don't have a lot of experience in the particular area that they're investigating. And so they're starting the process with gathering just information. We have no obligation from asking for this information. We're just trying to gather data to help us make a decision on our next steps. So the next request for item would be a request for a proposal. So this would be you're providing your requirements to a vendor organization, and you're asking them to give you a proposal for how they'll do this and what kind of costs you might be looking at. Primarily, though, that's more how you're going to be able to do this. Can you provide this type of functionality? The next step might be a request for quote. That's a specific request to respond to your RFP. It's a request in response to your response to an RFP, a vendor's response to an RFP, saying around this solution, provide us a quote for delivering this particular solution around our requirements. And then finally, a request for bid. What's your bid? We're going to seal that, and on the proper date, we'll open that up and make a decision based on that. So each of these is really a formal defined process. They're documented. Your organization is probably using these, especially if you're part of a government entity. You definitely will be using some part of the RFX process, and you can find out more information about that online. Do any kind of Google search for those. You'll find all kinds of examples and information to help explain those. But your organization probably has those documents as well. So you could easily go to procurement and ask to take a look at some past requests for proposal or quotes or whatever. So while an RFX process will help, the bottom line, though, is going to be to document your requirements in a form that can be easily transmitted to appropriate parties. Now, appropriate parties are individuals within your organization, but there are also those vendor parties that you might be interacting with to purchase software from. So you need to put your requirements, you need to write them down, even if it's not in a formal RFX process. They need to be written down so that easily to check them off during a demo. When someone like me comes in to show you service management, you can make sure that did he cover incident? Did he cover change? Did he cover problem? Did we see release? All of those type of items, you're able to go through and sort of check that off and make sure that you get exactly what you needed. Enterprise software is large and expansive, and so your requirements document is going to be long. And so when it's very easy to miss something if it's not on top of mind when you're seeing the demo. And so having that formalized list of those requirements really goes a long way toward avoiding having something being left out. You're missing something when you're taking a look at this. And on a side note, there is no RFX process that can make your teenage daughter like her kilt. She's just not going to do it. So how do you get to a final decision? You've met your vendors, you've created your requirements, you've seen demonstrations speaking specifically to those requirements. So really, what's your final decision criteria for purchasing enterprise software? Oftentimes, it's going to come down to a trial, maybe a proof of value and proof of concept. And what's the difference between these? Well, a trial is something that's going to be generally free. There'll be no cost. All of these are going to have a time limit on them because you're going to be using resources from your vendors that's talking to you about the solution. So they're going to put a time limit on how long this part of the engagement will last. A trial is generally free, but it's not going to really involve the complete development of your requirements. It's going to allow you to get close and allow you to sort of see what might be possible in the system. But really, there's going to be a trust factor there because you're not going to go to the complete development of any or any of your difficult requirements that might be from the engagement. Now, proof of value and proof of concept, these kind of go hand in hand. Oftentimes, they can involve cost because they're going to be a much more complete testing solution. And the point of proof of value really allows you to establish your success criteria with your internal teams that are a part of the definition, as well as the external vendor that's going to be a part of this, the consultants and staff that are going to be helping you with determining this proof of value. Once you've completed the proof of value, you've now established what success looks like and how the proof of concept needs to look. And at that point, develop that proof of concept. Your stakeholders then should come in and vote and score that proof of concept based on their own group's requirements. And then those scores can all be taken together, compiled together with a written proof of value that now provides you the data or the document that you can use internally to make the case that this decision is the correct one, is the right one for your organization. So really, each of your organizations is going to have its own purchasing process. You need to know what part you're going to play in that process. You need to know what other players there are in that process and how you're going to interact. Vendors, we all have our own selling process, but the best ones are going to align their selling process to your buying process. And so that's where that sharing comes in, and getting to know your vendor, letting them know what your process is, what your needs are, and really being sort of an open book to them so that they can provide you with the best information that they can to help you make a decision about what's going on. Vendors want to know everything they can, and so share whenever it's possible. It's going to help you when you do that. An organized system of choosing enterprise class software is going to help you eliminate risks. It's going to help ensure that you make the best choice. Now, there's no guarantees when purchasing something like this, but following these type of steps really should help you clear the murky water and help you catch the fish that you want. So at that point, it doesn't seem like we've had any questions up to here. This is, again, just a high overview, sort of a summary of purchasing of enterprise software. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Not so far. Folks, if you have a question, this is a good time to pick Bobby's brain. He's got some experience with this, and he might be able to assist you. So go ahead and type your question there in the Q&A section of this GoToWebinar, and we'll be happy to answer your questions live here. Hopefully this webinar has helped you out. Bobby, I appreciate the family tie-in. Some of that stuff is pretty funny. So
no problem. Definitely proud of my son does. It's an annual Thanksgiving attire for us.
Okay, That's awesome.
My,
That's
my
great.
my daughter has one, but I can't get her in it without threatening to take her phone.
Oh, that's funny. That's awesome. That's ironic, actually, to be honest with you. Does she wear skirts and things like that?
She does, and you know, on her it looks like a skirt. It doesn't look like a kilt, so I don't understand the problem.
It's probably just trying to, just got to go against dad. Folks, if you have a question, go ahead and type it now. If not, I'm going to thank Bobby for your presentation today. I think that was pretty helpful, pretty insightful. Folks, if you have any
Thank you.
additional questions, please reach out to us at 844 Flycast. That's 844 359 2278. Once again, reach out to us on our website and chat with one of our live IT experts Monday through Friday. Uh, Definitely through normal business hours, of course. Uh, we'd be more than happy to answer any question you have or help you go on that search for the right tool for your organization. We are aligned with several partners and in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. I'm going down the Avanti road. It came up on the screen there. Thanks again, folks. And until our next webinar next week, enjoy your week and enjoy your weekend. Thank you.